check out the official KSR website at knockdownsportsradio.com. You can find all of our past episodes, social media accounts, articles, and even links to Amazon. If you shop at Amazon.com, get special deals by using the links on the KSR website and help out our podcast at the very same time. You can even get a free month of Amazon Prime if you're a new subscriber. Check out knockdownsportsradio.com for all the details. Today's episode is brought to you in part by 2H Brewing of Greensboro, North Carolina. My partner in crime, Cody Teague, the lovely Leslie Harris, and friend of the program, Phil Howard, are making tasty craft brews in the heart of downtown Greensboro. From classic taste to out-of-bounds brews, 2H Brewing is trying them all. Give them a follow on Twitter at 2H Brewing for their updated beer list, and our thanks to them for sponsoring Knockdown Sports Radio. And always, please drink responsibly. Hello everyone, my name is Chris Catlicott, and you are listening to Knockdown Sports Radio. Again, my name is Chris. Thanks for hanging out with me today on the KSR podcast, episode number 5, September 14th, 2016. Lots of stuff to get into today. Let's hop right in. I want to remind everybody of our social media accounts. You can find us on Twitter. That's our main form of communication. At knockdown_radio. That is knockdown. Do it with me now. Do it with me. _radio. Knockdown Sports Radio on Facebook. And as the aforementioned, as you are welcome to the show, knockdownsportsradio.com, where you can find all of our website information, all of our Amazon links, our past episodes, and everything like that, so we hope you'll join us in that regard. Alrighty, let's kick it right off with the 3 count. The 3 count, ladies and gentlemen, on the all-around sports edition of Knockdown Sports Radio. You just thought the 3 count was for the wrestling show, didn't you? No such luck, no such luck. The 3 count all NFL edition on the all-around sports episode here. Count number 1, the rarely used count number 1. DeAngelo Williams, Steelers running back, former Carolina Panthers running back. He turned back the clock and thought he was like 25 again. I'm over here in my fantasy league, right? I've got Antonio Brown, fellow Steeler of DeAngelo Williams. He's got like 30 points. I'm up by like 15. Feeling pretty good. Todd Gurley was the guy I was playing against on the other team as far as the running back. Alright, got it. DeAngelo Williams says, No, Chris Catlicott. No, Knockdown Sports Radio. You shall not win today. 26 rushes for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. And just for good measure, added 6 receptions for about 30 yards as well. Come on, man! Okay, that might be copyrighted, so I probably shouldn't have used that. But DeAngelo Williams absolutely killed me. Ended up losing by a couple points. I'm now a bottom of the barrel 0-1. But I digress. But congratulations to DeAngelo on a fantastic game. He was nothing but a positive influence in the Charlotte area, in the Carolinas, for the Panthers when he was here. Very charitable, very giving, very outspoken for, wonderful causes in this area. So I'm really glad to see him at his advanced age, for a running back anyway, have such a good game. Unfortunately, it was at my expense. Count number 2. The overused 2 count. Except this guy might be used more and more as time goes along. That is none other than Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo of the New England Patriots. You thought Tom Brady was a good-looking dude? You know, I'm just glad my wife didn't see Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, granted, she thinks I'm handsome because she's blind. Not really. She has like 20/15 vision, which makes it even more curious. But she married me, but I'm just glad she didn't look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Not only does he look decent in a mirror, he looked pretty darn good on the gridiron too. 24 of 33 for 264 yards. Touchdown. No picks. If we had to describe this performance in one word, okay, I've got two options for you. One would be assisted, and the second would be efficient. Now let's start off with efficient. Those numbers are the epitome of efficient. Like I said, 24 of 33, you're looking at about 70% completion rate there. 264 yards, one touchdown, no picks. So if you look at that stat line from top to bottom, that is absolutely efficient. But his efficiency was also assisted. He wasn't really rushed that much. His offensive line took care of him. His running game was solid behind him. And New England's defense stopped what should be, and really kind of is, a pretty explosive Arizona Cardinals offense. So his efficiency was assisted by the other areas and the strengths of New England Patriots team. Now, with that said, I've not heard of the vast majority of the receivers he threw to, with the exception of Danny Amendola, because honestly, most of those dudes were exactly like me. Small, white, and unathletic. I just don't understand how Bill Belichick does it, man. It's like he has a meter or an alarm that goes off when there is a gritty, deceptively fast receiver available. And then he just scoops them up and uses them perfectly within their system. Now, with that said, New England Patriots don't really have a quote-unquote system. They change their playbook from week to week. Like, you can watch game film from the week before, and they come out and do hardly any of it the week you play them. That's the beauty of Belichick. As much as I dislike the guy personally, I guess, or professionally, whatever you want to call it, he's a heck of a ball coach. Now, I might talk like this in his press conferences, and you can't really understand what he's saying. But either way, Jimmy Garoppolo, assistedly efficient. The 3 count, and for the pin, ding, ding, ding. Wish I had that sound effect ready. Cam Newton, one Cam Newton, blonde goatee and all, has unleashed a food truck. That's right. A little levity on the radio today with Knockdown Sports Radio. A food truck called Smokin' Aces in the Charlotte area. It was painted by a very famous artist who has done paintings, I believe, for famous rappers. He's done murals in very important places. Forgive me for not knowing his name. But he got a very famous artist to do the mural of himself with the Superman pose on his food truck. Now, if you know anything about Cam Newton, he's a pescatarian. No red meat, just fish. Apparently, this has a pescatarian-esque menu or vibe, but apparently you can find just about anything you want on that menu. What's funny about it, the artist, I was reading an article the other day, the artist was just about to finish up on this food truck. Cam Newton rolls by. Hey man, I need my goatee to be blonde. It's like, I don't care how the food tastes, as long as it looks good. That's Cam Newton. So the Smoking Aces, be on the lookout for that in the Charlotte area. You can't miss it, obviously. Big old mural of Cam Newton all over the sides of the truck. And that is your 3-count NFL edition. Keeping in line with the NFL, switching gears to a little more serious note for the rest of this one. The continuity of the national anthem stances, sittings, kneelings, fist raises. There's become a litany of different ways to either support or object to the national anthem. And goodness knows how many different causes that we're trying to stand for now. To those who kneel, Colin Kaepernick obviously started this a couple of weeks ago in the preseason game, has continued to do so, even in his backup quarterback role. And the way Blaine Gabbert played, he may or may not see the field this year. Gabbert, not exceptional, not awful. But like I said last week, it's hilarious that instead of announcing Blaine Gabbert, the starter, they announced Colin Kaepernick as the backup. So that tells you the story that we're paying attention to, and it's not in actual football. But to those who kneel, I've been trying to do my due diligence. I really have. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. Kaepernick says it's not anti-military, it's not anti-establishment per se. And it's not necessarily anti-police, but that is sort of the way that it's leaning toward the Black Lives Matter portion of the program. And the kneelers aren't necessarily pronouncing that as their cause. They're more of a silent protest to where there hasn't been a definitive meaning given to those who kneel. They're just supporting a cause by negating the anthem. But this week, we get guys who are raising their fists a la the Olympians back in the 80s. And I hope I got my date right. These guys are pronouncing and announcing that they are for the Black Lives Matter cause, which essentially stands for anti-police brutality toward minorities. Is there police favoritism? Is there law enforcement abuse? Sure. There's always going to be bad cops. There's been bad cops since the inception of cops. To protect and serve is what they're supposed to be there to do. But unfortunately, just with any other business, with any other walk of life, there's going to be bad apples amongst a good cause. Amongst a good formal protection agency such as the police. So we get guys with their fists raised. They now have a direct cause that they're looking out for. And that's fine. That's fine. Before I get to why I don't like these things necessarily being on a big stage, you had Dabo Swinney, head football coach of Clemson, finally asked about Colin Kaepernick. And if we had time on the show, I would play the entire audio. It's about 10 minutes long. Now, if you know anything about Dabo Swinney, he's known for his promos / interviews after games, before games, and he might even have a hot take now and then. This one got kind of scorching, for lack of better term. He is being absolutely nailed by the media, the black community, because he basically put a little bit of a bow, a Christmas present type of bow, on current America. What Dabo Swinney did is he took a couple different stances. The one stance that I did like, absolutely loved, honestly, he's like, this is not necessarily a race problem, it's a Jesus problem. Is our Christian morals aren't used the way they have been in the past, even those such as black leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. That's the other one he equated this to. He said, black head coaches, black CEOs, interracial marriages, interracial churches are all a thing of the norm now. Whereas back when Dr. King was in the middle of his activism, we couldn't do that. At least not publicly. But just because Dabo Swinney has a thick Southern accent like myself, I think he gets looked upon in a different light. I hate to play devil's advocate here, but I'm going to. If a prominent media member of color were to say those exact things, we would be rallying behind them and said, yes, America is much better now than it was then. Let's keep moving forward. But instead, it was a white Southern boy saying it. And we knock him down because apparently they're the problem. I don't get it. Yes, is America better now than it was then? Absolutely, Dabo. Fantastically. Yes, it is, Dabo Swinney. Well done, coach. But could it be a lot better? Yes, absolutely. And that's what these guys who are raising their fists, that are kneeling down, that's what they're standing for. Dabo, as much as I love him, good Christian man, was kind of looking at this with rose-colored glasses, when there's obviously still problems here in America. So Dabo Swinney, as much as I applaud you for your stance, unfortunately at this point in time it was probably the wrong one to make publicly because of the world we live in today. Also, he brought up another Bible verse, and I'll leave him with this. The Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. Hate the sin, not the sinner. He didn't say that. I did. But he says, love your neighbor as yourself. It didn't say, love your neighbor if they were whatever color. He did not. The Bible does not say, love your neighbor if they're a certain sexual orientation. The Bible does not say, love your neighbor only if they're a particular gender. The Bible says, love your neighbor like you love yourself. All right, moving on. With all of these demonstrations, we have some distractions, I'll call it. But this is why I don't like it. Why do we watch sports? We want to have fun and be able to get away from the distractions of everyday life, right? Is that sort of why we get away from real life? We want to watch sports because it is fun. It's a game. We don't watch sports to be politically advocated in any form or fashion. And that's what it's become. Sports has now become a platform for politics. We first had the separation of church and state. Now can we please have the separation of sports and politics? But since millions of people tune in, they're like, oh, we can use this as a way to get our cause out there. We can use this to become famous or infamous, depending on which side of the fence you stand on, or sit on, or kneel on. But sports has officially become a distraction from the distractions. Don't let sports become that. Sports are supposed to be wholesome, fun things that are designed for families, friends, buddies, pals to enjoy. Don't take the fun out of sports. Then you have no purpose for them whatsoever. We'll be right back after this. Alrighty guys, we are back. Knockdown Sports Radio, episode 5. Some more serious stuff today, guys. Absolutely some more serious stuff today. But hey, I like to talk about it. Me and my boy Cody, my partner in crime, Cody Teague, unfortunately couldn't join us again today. But one of these days, he and I are going to have one heck of a conversation about all this. And it's going to be must-see TV or must-hear radio. I'm going to rein him in at some point, guys, I promise. I think he's actually at the dentist today, so you probably actually sound like Bill Belichick while he's trying to make a point. Wah, 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 wah. Either that or, the teacher from the Peanuts, one of the two. So from one football establishment to another major sporting organization, quote-unquote nonprofit organization, but that's a different story for a whole different show. The NCAA has officially moved postseason play from the state of North Carolina this year. And this is directly due to HB2, House Bill 2, the bathroom law, the bathroom bill, I should say, whatever you want to call it, that is the official reason why the NCAA has moved all postseason play championship from the state of North Carolina. Now, before we get into it, here is what will be moved. There are 7 events that will be moved due to this House Bill number 2. The Division I Women's Soccer Championship College Cup slated for the Cary Soccer Park in Cary, North Carolina. That was supposed to be December 2nd and 4th. The Division I Men's Basketball Tournament, unfortunately, moved from Greensboro, rounds 1 and 2 that were slated for March 17th and 19th. And as you know, I am a big proponent of college basketball. I am a huge North Carolina Tar Heel fan. Now, if things go to plan and North Carolina becomes a 1 or a 2 seed, most likely they would have played in Greensboro. And most likely I would have ordered tickets and went to said event. Now, granted, this House bill now saves me about $100, but I digress. The Division I Women's Golf Championship Regional, held in Greenville, North Carolina, May 8th through 10th. And the Division I Women's Lacrosse Championship in Cary, May 26th and 28th. Now that's your D1 stuff. D2, Division II Baseball Championships in Cary, May 27th through to June 3rd. And also going in Division III, the Men's and Women's Soccer Division III Championships in Greensboro, December 2nd and 3rd. And the Men's and Women's Tennis Championships at the beautiful Cary Tennis Center, which I've been to many times, May 22nd through 27th. Now, kudos to Twitter accounts, satirical accounts, Sports Channel 8, at Sports Channel 8 on Twitter. Some former Raleigh media guys, current Raleigh media guys who get A-pluses in satire on a fantastic basis. They have a full website of basically sports satire for the Carolinas specifically, in the ACC. These guys did a remix of North Carolina's championships from the Triangle area, whether that be North Carolina, Duke, NC State, and otherwise, and mixed in the new Pat McCrory political ad, his gubernatorial promotional ad that says, "Not on my watch." So basically, if he would have been governor at that point in time, there would be no North Carolinian champions that played in the state of North Carolina during their NCAA tournament reign. So, fantastic little video that they put together. You can find it on our Twitter at knockdown_radio. But is this now the last straw for North Carolina? They moved the NBA All-Star Game from Charlotte that happened earlier in the year. They said they would be as eligible as early as 2019 to get it back, I believe. But if this law stays in place, Charlotte might as well not even make a bid. In all of these NCAA tournaments, granted, the only one that would have been a major economical impact would have been the D1 men's basketball tournament in Greensboro. That's a lot of hotel rooms that are going to be empty. That's a lot of tickets that aren't going to be sold. That's a lot of food that is not going to be eaten. Most likely at Stamey's Barbecue there in Greensboro. Boy, oh boy. Making me hungry. So, is this the straw that breaks the proverbial camel's back? Is McCrory going to try to get reelected by backing off his stance? Or is he going to maintain strong and let North Carolina keep losing all of these events? I'm going to try to stay straight as an arrow on this one. We've mentioned this before. Me and Cody did, I believe, several months ago when the NBA All-Star team or All-Star game was moved. But I want to just get some reaction, not only from you guys. You can hit us up on Twitter at knockdown_radio. But also from the GOP, who was I don't know how to say this. It said, I'm going to read a statement from Cami Mueller, who is the spokeswoman for the North Carolina GOP. And I quote, "This is so absurd it's almost comical. I genuinely look forward to the NCAA merging all men's and women's teams together as a singular, unified, unisex team. Under the NCAA's logic, colleges should make cheerleaders and football players share bathrooms, showers, and hotel rooms. This decision is an assault to female athletes across the nation. If you are unwilling to have women's bathrooms and locker rooms, how do you have a women's team? I wish the NCAA was this concerned about women who were being raped at Baylor." Shots fired. "Perhaps the NCAA should stop with their political peacocking and instead focus their energies on making sure our nation's collegiate athletes are safe both on and off the field." Again, that is from Cami Mueller, spokeswoman for the North Carolina GOP. And I thought I was conservative. My word. That is, that's reaching out there. Now, some of her bases for her arguments somewhat make a little bit of sense, but that's pretty far-fetched there. There's obviously going to be guidelines to what this law states and what the repealment of this law would also be as well. There's limitations to everything, guys. Nothing's going to be black and white one way or the other. That is one heck of a statement. Now, with that said, I also wanted to give you guys a statement from ACC Commissioner John Swofford. Now, the ACC football championship held in Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium almost on a yearly basis now. The city of Greensboro is always pretty much going to host the ACC Women's Basketball Championship. And Greensboro also, as well as Charlotte, home to the ACC Basketball Championship for the men in rotation. He pretty much says, screw your GOP, and here's what I have to say, even though they have not pulled any ACC postseason play from the state of North Carolina yet. Mr. Swofford says, "The decision by the NCAA Board of Governors to relocate all current and not award any future NCAA championship sites in the state of North Carolina continues to build upon the negative impact that this bill, HB2, has already made on the state. HB2 was previously scheduled to be thoroughly discussed at this week's ACC Council of Presidents meeting, so it would be premature to make any decisions or announcements regarding ACC championships until our membership is available to discuss it. The league's long-standing commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion will continue to be central to our discussions." And on a personal note, he continues on, "It is time for this bill to be repealed, and it's counter to basic human rights." So he's basically saying, screw your bill, phooey on your GOP statement. He's talking common sense here about basic human rights. Now, again, that depends on what you have been taught are basic human rights. What decisions are natural, what decisions are made after, what decisions are allowed to be made legally, illegally, naturally, unnaturally, what have you. That depends on what you were taught growing up. So my stance here, I'm going to be a stuck-up sports fan and say, do whatever you got to do. I don't want to lose my NCAA championships. And also, I sure don't want to lose my home ACC Conference Championship postseason play here in the great state, might I add, the great state of North Carolina. That wraps up Knockdown Sports Radio for today. I really hope that you will join us for episode 6 if you are a wrestling fan. We're going to do a review of WWE Backlash. Also talk about the weekly WWE television of Raw and SmackDown. As well as look ahead to tonight's Cruiserweight Classic 2-hour finale that I will be doing for WrestlingInc.com. Again, my name is Chris Calicut. Follow us on Twitter at knockdown_radio, Facebook.com/knockdownsportsradio, and the newly unveiled knockdownsportsradio.com. My name's Chris. This is Knockdown Sports Radio. We'll see you next time.